Today we're discussing the final part of Mariah's memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey. Hey kids, Treacle here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my book club. This is part 4. In parts 1, 2 and 3, we covered parts 1, 2 and 3 of Mariah's memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey. This is part 4. We're looking at part 4 of the book, Emancipation, and I'm joined once again by some good lamb friends of mine, some friends of the channel. Let's get stuck in. So welcome back to book club, and representing the Americans, we have Michael today in Dimitri's absence. Welcome, Michael, to book club.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
Very happy to have you. So when last we left, we were leaving the glitter era. Mariah's not really out of the woods, but the worst of it is behind her. At the top of Emancipation, she addresses that and she's moving forward into the charm bracelet era. And charm bracelet era is an interesting one. I think she describes it at one point in the book as being some kind of cocoon. She said if rainbow was the bridge to safety, well, what she hoped was going to be safety, but the whole glitter project wasn't. She describes charm bracelet as like a cocoon. And I feel like that kind of sums the album up pretty well, because the big moment came later on. The first thing that I have highlighted in the Emancipation section is at the top of page 277, where Mariah very briefly talks about a romantic dalliance. She says, I was kind of seeing a guy, but just seeing, nothing else. I just wanted to have fun. Now that's easily skimmed over or skipped past, but for me, that's a very casual reference to someone quite significant. I think that's Mark Sudak. Taz, you'll remember Mark, surely, from back in the day. Did you think that was Mark in that reference?
For me, Demiza had come out and said that they had a thing as well. She's never confirmed that, so that would tie into like I think he was for a lot of the glitter debacle. He was there for a lot of that. I think maybe after that, maybe she saw him in more romantic light as well. So it could be Mark or Demiza in my mind. I feel Mark was more into the emancipation era. He was more 2005, but this would have been around obviously 2002, 2003. So it's 50-50 for me.
Who's Mark?
Oh, who's Mark? Mark Sudak, the guy she was with when you were meeting her as a baby lamb. There's this guy. He is credited, if you pick up your Emancipation vinyl, he is credited as a co-executive producer or co-producer. He was around right up until Nick. A lot of people are saying that she only ended with him shortly before Nick. Like, Mark was always there. He is there in a lot of background photos. Michael, when you read that little snippet, who came to your mind?
Well, it is around that time. I remember that live stream Demiza did as well, and I remember some inappropriate things he said about the writing of some songs in the charm bracelet era. But Mariah's never really mentioned that, so it's kind of like, is it real, is it not? I mean, Demiza said a bunch of stuff too that was kind of like, so I don't know what to believe or what not to believe, but
I definitely got the impression over time that Demiza is a little bitter. I don't know how things ended, and I think the fact that she never talks about him at all only makes it worse. The reason Mark Sudak came to mind is because I remember him being around certainly when she was promoting Charm Bracelet, because I remember when she went to her Halloween party, London, 2003. She's in that beautiful mermaid outfit. Everyone remembers those photos. I was outside Claudia's hotel. She stepped out the hotel in that outfit, and Mark Sudak was there. So that is October 2003. Charm Bracelet came out the December prior, so maybe he was around for the Charm Bracelet promo. Maybe this is a reference to like the development, so it could have been. I was trying to like find all the references to like all of her different loves, and Mark Sudak is someone that they never really got photographed together publicly as a couple. He was just always there, and I was like, how serious is this? But he's there before Emancipation, through Emancipation, after Emancipation. He's actually around for like 4 years or something. Someone had to point out to me just how long he was around for. So I was really like, I wonder if he's going to mention Mark. I wonder if he's going to get like a reference. And that one line, I thought, oh, is that it? Let's move on to another one of Mariah's men. I do keep threatening a separate video series of Mariah's men, because I find it so interesting just to look at the different relationships. But in Emancipation, she jumps around and she suddenly jumps back in time and she talks about Mr. Miguel. We get a little bit about Louis. I don't really remember their relationship back in the day because it was as I was a teenager and I was really getting into her music, and we didn't have all the social media access to things, so it was more just like magazines and things, so I wasn't really super aware of their relationship at the time. It's something that I kind of learned of in retrospect. Does anyone remember kind of experiencing their relationship, because they were together for like what, 3 years?
I remember like back in the either Hello or UK had like all these like photo shoots of them, and so I don't know if they might have been candid as well, you know, but I think there was a story. They'll definitely have a magazine somewhere with pages of them, but I knew about them. But I think Mariah would love the fact that when she was in, you know, Camp Louis, that she wasn't the focus, like he was the Elvis. She loved that when she went to wherever he was popular. No shade. He is popular, we know this, right? But like he's more popular than me. Anyway, she loved that she wasn't the focus, that she could actually be herself, and like the spotlight was on him. And she, I guess that was kind of like someone that probably understood her commitments because he had them himself. I suppose someone like, you know, maybe like in later years, we know now Nick probably couldn't handle, and probably vice versa. It's probably very, very hard for her to have a relationship with someone when she has to commit so many things, and you need to understand that about her, and you're probably going to have to understand that she's a global superstar, so you're probably never going to get to that level, and it's probably a lot for some guys to take on, you know, but like he had that, he was at that level himself, so I think that was comforting for her.
So he was that popular?
Oh, he was huge. Like when they went anywhere, she was just Mariah. Like she could dress down, be in normal clothes, and it would be all Louis. Like fans would be screaming for him at the time. Like,
in the Spanish-speaking world, he had a huge following, and I think it was, like you say, a bit of a reprieve that like Mariah could dress down, as Taz says, and the heat is off her a little bit, or at least at times she felt it was like 50-50. She has her huge fan base, he has his huge fan base, and because they're both musical artists, they get it. So it's not certain conversations that have to be had. Michael, what are your memories of their relationship?
Well, I was in kindergarten, so I don't have many. But I will make a comment though that one of my all-time favorite songs ever is "Cry Baby," and I think in the memoir it gets referenced twice, and one is here. And I think what I took from it is that she's in Luis Miguel's house thinking of Derek Jeter and like putting that together. I was like, oh my gosh! So that kind of explains the relationship.
Because isn't "Cry Baby" like an angry song at one of the other men?
She says in the memoir that Cry Baby was born from a conversation she was having with a girlfriend where she was referring to Derek and the whole like doing like a Joan Rivers impersonation, like the mother loved me, the sister loved me, it could have been perfect. And that's that kind of thing, that kind of lyric works into the song. And in Cry Baby, she's talking about being with someone, but it ain't that deep, tiptoeing around. And I took that the same way Michael did. She's with Louis, but she's thinking back to Derek and like, that should have worked out. It could have been perfect. For something that wasn't that deep, she was with Louis for, I think she says in the book, 3 years. They broke up after 3 years. And again, it wasn't until she really puts it in the book, I'm like, yeah, actually that was a 3-year relationship.
Imagine breaking up with Mariah.
What I find interesting is even when she was with Derek and people knew about it, she wasn't really, like it wasn't in the tabloids or anywhere, you know? But with Louis, it really was. You really got the sense that she really finally was in love. That's what I took from seeing her at that time. It was like, Mariah really looked happy. She looks so in love. She feels free, you know, and she's not afraid to show it. And she was, you know, publicly kissing him and all over him and showing that she really liked him. So I think she obviously really loved like Louis at the time. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out. I don't know. I personally get the feeling it might have been more on his part that it didn't go work out more than Mariah's. And I'm not sure about the Derek one. I'm not sure what might have happened there. But and you know what? I think with the thing with the Louis thing, all happened not long before the whole glitter era as well. So it probably fed into that, also had a hand in all the issues she was having with everything else. So I think, you know, you're going through a hard breakup and then you have issues with your ex-husband and you're having issues from the company.
I think you're right with what you say about them being like a somewhat affectionate, showy couple is how I would describe them, because so many images cross my mind where they're quite happily playing to the cameras, you know, in an affectionate, fun way, in a way that I didn't see her do again until Nick, in terms of being, you know, happy to be, you know, cutesy and a bit goofy. She does that a little bit with Brian. Like, she'll let him kind of dip her on a red carpet, you know.
Oh, slay.
But yeah, they were quite a camera happy couple, her with Louis. But I attribute some of that to his personality. She says that he was quite flashy and his gestures were, you know, diamonds and, you know, hot tubs and private jets. And
who doesn't love that though?
Sending her a private jet full of roses. Like, that is the type of gesture that she would receive from Louis Miguel. So yeah, in front of the cameras.
I can't even get a text back.
I know, it's completely unrelatable. Mariah's relationship struggles are completely unrelatable. Towards the end of the Latin Elvis section, she says, and I quote, "Though we made an effervescent couple, it's always hard to live and love in the limelight. He may have been the Elvis of the Spanish-speaking world, but when he came to the United States, no offense, but for the most part, I was the star of the show." So I think, like you say, Taz, he had his domain where he was the big star, but in the States, maybe he struggled a bit because she was in his shadow. And then you also said that maybe most of the breakup was kind of on him. And I think she kind of says about some issues, because she goes on to say, he'd been through a lot and lost his mother at a very early age. From what I'd been told, his father's very difficult and controlling. I tried my best to support him emotionally, but I was going through my own shit. Like you said, you know, she's coming up to glitter and everything. It got to the point where I could no longer deal with it. We were not helping each other heal. At best, Louis was generous, spontaneous, and passionate, but at his worst, he was erratic and anxious and had a dark cloud hanging over his head. After 3 years, I knew it was time for us to part ways. He wasn't as big a star as her on her turf, and she was going into her own kind of stormy situation, moving from rainbow to glitter. She didn't have the energy or the time to kind of continue to try and help him fight his demons. But what do you guys think of them as a couple, though? That's why I want to ask, because they do look so cute and romantic in the photos, and he did seem to make her happy. And I love the fact she had someone that was sending her private jets full of roses and gifting her diamonds and things like that, because that's what she deserves. So I was happy for that. I think they were well suited. Michael?
It was fun, like she said, like it was flashy and surface level, looked like this grand thing, but yeah, to me it doesn't seem like the lyric goes that deep. It was just kind of a surface type deal.
From what I gather, it was one of them had to rip the band-aid off, if you know what I mean. Like, they both loved each other.
It must be really hard for somebody of Mariah's magnitude to date. Like, she's always going to be, I hate to say it, dating down. Like, she can't date anybody bigger than herself.
You know, I think she was at that mature level where she was like, no, I can't do this anymore. You know, something's got to give.
Every relationship is a struggle, and I guess when you are Mariah Carey, there is going to be a lot of struggles in any relationship, because as Nayth just said, you are always dating down no matter what.
I think, like, if I was Mariah, I'd be really, like, questioning people's intentions. Like, are they with me because they love me, or are they with me because I am Mariah Carey?
Yeah, well, that's my favorite lyric in Baby Doll. Do you care for me beyond idolization? So we know that is how she feels.
But it must be really hard to have that many insecurities, not only from your childhood about where do I fit in, you know, am I black, am I white, you know, what am I? But also,
she can't even find somebody that loves her beyond idolization.
We move from Louis to Brian. She does jump around, so we kind of jump through Emancipation. She's on the Adventures of Mimi tour, and she said that one dancer stood out, and that dancer's name was Tanaka. We'd already started shooting flirty glances at each other in the tour bus, about 20 miles back. We sat across from each other in a dine or something at this point. We sat across from each other in a booth like 8th graders. We softly touched each other's legs under the table, undetected, while the rest of the party roared on. How crazy is it that they are together in whatever kind of capacity now in 2021, but they actually have history all the way back, and he was a little bit of a baby backup dancer for her on the Adventures of Mimi tour. How crazy is that?
I remember
watching the Adventures of Mimi tour for the first time and be like, who's that cute dancer in the back? Like, oh. And I remember Googling him, like Googling all the things, finding out who he is, following him on Instagram and being like, oh, like,
The whole thing was kind of, I think she had the relationship with Tanaka, and then Mariah's World really put him up on the pedestal. Then, like, you know, they had the whole, do I love the billionaire guy or do I love Brian, you know? And the whole thing, like in the back garden where she's professing their love for each other. It was a bit cringy, but whatever.
I cannot get into Mariah's World in this video because we will go off on the biggest tangent and never get back on track. I'm sure we've all got several things to say about Mariah's World.
At first, I was like, I don't like that Tanaka. Get away from my Mariah. It's been hurt already. But over time, I'm like, yeah, he's not that bad.
Not that bad.
And I think it was, well, let's face it, he's the better looking entanglement she's had. What changed my mind about Tanaka is the Mariah's World. I think he does care for her.
I get that sense of him as a genuine person, and he does seem to really care, and he has her on a pedestal, and that's what I want. She needs to be on a pedestal.
She needs to be treated like a motherfucking queen.
Once he makes her happy, I don't care. I don't care what they look like.
At the end of the day.
Quasimodo. Once she's happy, genuinely happy, I'm happy if Mariah's happy. That's, you know.
Michael, what are your thoughts on Mariah and Tanaka and the fact it, you know, goes all the way back to the Adventures of Mimi tour?
We actually went to the same gym for a little bit, so I've met him a few times.
Oh, spill.
Very, very nice.
Did you do that on purpose?
Boys, pipe down. Stop interrupting. I want to hear. Go ahead, Michael.
He's extremely, extremely nice. He's very, very tall. I don't know. I think he's Team MC. Like, I think it's legit. And like all different talk shows, we don't need to name people, always said, oh, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. And I was kind of like, I think this is real. You know, he's been there, being back then and coming back, and like there's a reason for that. They were meant to be in each other's lives, I think.
He was on her tour legitimately off the back of the strength of his CV. He, you know, how are you going to meet people? You're going to meet people that are naturally, organically around you. So yeah, and like Taz said, as long as she is happy, that's all we really care about at the end of the day.
So next we are moving on to a chapter that touched me, and I'm sure it touched all of you. It is, of course, The Father and the Sunset. So Mariah's final days, final hours and moments with her father. Obviously, we have the beautiful song Sunflowers for Alfred Roy. I mean, this whole chapter, this is the one part in the book when I read it, I cried. And when I listened to the audiobook, I certainly cried. The bit that really got me is when she spoke with her father about her struggles growing up. And she said to him, when I was little, I explained, it was really hard for me because white people made me feel ashamed to be what I was. The hate I felt from some of them was so real. I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the skill set to know how to handle that. And I don't ever want you to feel like it was because of you. Hearing Mariah talk through that section and read that section in the audiobook was really, really, like, you know, straight to the heart. It was really, really painful. This chapter was so vulnerable and brave, I think, to share.
I suppose and she never really probably had a relationship then with her dad. Like, she left kind of home probably young for her career. Then her star took off, and everything between, it probably was a ruptured relationship for many years. And then to know that he was actually a fan and kept the mementos of her career and knew about her music and whatever, like, her may not know all the album, they're calling it, I think for her first album, I know she mentioned this in the book, but I know she meant it somewhere one time that, oh, I have the album or something. I don't know, he didn't know the name of it or something, but he referred to it as the album. And I think that, you know, just the fact that he even had any kind of, I suppose, interest in her, even her career, I think that dumbfounded her, because obviously their relationship probably was beyond, at that point, repair. And I suppose it's kind of sad that it repaired in the end. Like, it was like, God, I wish I could have 20 years with my dad, which he probably did have, and never, you know, they never made that connection until it was, you know, dying days, I guess.
Yeah, it was late, but better late than never. And it was very touching to read just how touched she was by the fact he had that little collection of mementos, like you say, and he had, you know, newspaper, magazine cutouts. I think she even detailed that he'd underlined parts that he liked and things, and she never really knew that he had invested that much of a following or an interest in her career, which sounds crazy, but if he wasn't having those conversations with her, she's not to know. And at the end of the day, we all want validation. We all want to feel like we've made our parents proud. And I think she didn't really feel that from her father until that moment. Michael, how did this chapter hit you?
It was probably my favorite chapter. And I know I talked about this in my Hey Lamb video, but yeah, when she found those clippings that he saved, I just I lost it. That just hit me so much. But Going Up Yonder, how do we not talk about that, you know? I mean, I don't know, but I'm familiar with Tremaine Hawkins' version, and then to hear Mariah do it, it's such a powerful song. I think it was just an amazing, I mean, not that the relationship is over. I mean, she's still, obviously people live on, but to have that closure and that grandiose moment, I think she couldn't have ended that, you know, time in her life better than how she did it. I think it was a great honor what she did.
Nayth, what was your experience with this chapter in the book?
I cried. I did cry a lot of the book, but this
particular chapter, like when she's talking about like the clippings and things.
I think she went up yonder.
So basically, I cried, and this chapter, it was, I think throughout the whole thing, I was trying to put myself into her shoes and like, how would I deal with this situation?
It's a hugely personal moment that she could have not put in, or maybe she didn't have to give that level of detail. Even the level of detail where, you know, her father wasn't comfortable with Morgan being in the room because their relationship wasn't in that place. And but his dying wish, she says, was for Alison and her to be in the room together and make some peace. And she says for a short time they were able to be in the same room together for him. That's really, really intimate level of detail that she doesn't owe us. She doesn't have to give to us. She could have just spoken about her and her father, but she does talk about, you know, it's almost possibly potentially embarrassing. People look at it and go, your dad didn't even know, he didn't even have your albums, he didn't even know what kind of relationship. It's very vulnerable to put those things in the book. And I think all credit to her.
I think we're blessed to have the whole book. Like, none of this book she had to tell us. Like, she didn't have to write about any of it.
I think even like to refer to her brother and sister as ex-sister, like, must be very hard for her. I know she went through therapy for that, but like it's kind of going against her dying dad's wish, you know. So that's, you know, half her wants to not probably cut them off, and half her then her people that are trying to help her through therapy are saying to her, look, you're looking for something from them that you're never going to get. They have another motive. You're never going to get the brother and sister that you yearn. You need to refer to them as, you know, for her to be able to move on, and I suppose not spend her whole life wishing for a relationship that is just never going to be there.
And we're going to jump ahead. We're changing scene, changing year, because this is what Mariah is doing in the section Emancipation. She's jumping all over the place. We are now talking about Aretha Franklin and divas. So I don't want to go over the whole Aretha thing because Mariah's spoken about the story many times. Aretha didn't want to sing in rehearsal because the aircon was not switched off. Fully understand that. They had the moment of rehearsal in the trailer.
The bit I want to get to is the juicy bit. Like, was Mariah talking about Celine Dion? For me, it's a big fat yes, but I want to give you guys a space to comment. So when it comes to the actual performance, and there's the end of the show section where it's like, we are the world, everyone comes out and sings. Mariah says that part of any kind of show is not her favorite, but we love everybody, so we do it, whatever. But she says,
one of the divas didn't understand the culture of the court and tried to come for the queen a little bit, Miss Aretha Franklin. During the song, it was fine. I wouldn't have ever done that. To quote Miss Franklin, something was askew. And then she goes on to talk about it a little bit more. But Mariah's given a couple of interviews where she reflects on that Divas Live performance.
For me, it's pretty clear it's Celine Dion. And when you watch the performance, no one else is really stepping forward out of formation and really trying to riff and run.
I took advantage of the situation.
It's a little bit uncomfortable to watch. I mean, it's impressive what Celine does, and I love Celine, but it's a bit weird because Aretha's kind of like at it a little bit. So I feel a bit weird watching it, and I definitely feel weird looking back at it now, knowing like how uncomfortable our girl Mariah was. But what do you guys think about what Mariah has to say and that whole moment?
I think when you get a bunch of big stars on stage, something's going to be askew. I did like the fact that I can't remember what interview it is, but I remember Mariah saying, I was heading to the backing singers. That's where I belonged. Nobody messes with Aretha.
I wasn't going to comment, but I personally truly don't think Celine meant it as I'm taking Aretha on. I think she just went out there and sang and was performing with Aretha. I don't think in her mind it was any way disrespectful. But I don't know Celine. I wasn't there. I mean, I've seen it a million times, but to me, it didn't come off as Celine. I mean, Celine is Celine, I don't think she meant to do that.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I think she was just living the moment and she wanted to really play sport and have a moment with Aretha.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like Mariah knows as an etiquette, obviously, because she's from that world and she reveres all these people. She reveres Aretha as one of the greatest, like Stevie Wonder. She has a certain mindset of who is untouchable. And even though we put Mariah there, she has her own. We may not put Aretha there, even though Aretha probably deserves to be there. I just am not invested in Aretha. I'm sure Aretha Van would think there's never going to be another Aretha. Mariah probably would agree with that sentiment or whatever. But Mariah then does go on to talk about, singing Happy Birthday and not knowing the etiquette there. So it's kind of the same thing. I don't think Celine came out. I think Celine came out to riff on out with Aretha. If Aretha wants to riff back, we'll give Divas Live, we'll give VH1 a show, not knowing that that's not what you do. You respect Aretha. You don't try to outsing Aretha. You let her be the star that shines or whatever it is. Like Mariah could have come out there and hit all the high notes and whatever she wanted to do, but she didn't because it's Aretha's moment. It's her song. It's whatever. When Divas Live first came out, Mariah had said no or couldn't commit to doing it, and it nearly had gone to press. And then really last minute, she said, "Yeah, I can do it." And I think if she had more time or decided she knew she was going to be doing it, I think she would have fused one of her songs, like she done with Heartbreaker, Love Hangover for the Diana Ross special. I think she would have taken one of her songs and interpolated one of Aretha's and made it seamless. But it was so last minute. Mariah was literally on board right at the end. Like I think they had another cover and all designed without Mariah on it. And then Mariah said she'll do it. So they had to put the fight to get Mariah's picture. Wow. I remember there was definitely something about Divas Live. Mariah was extremely last. I don't know why she wasn't committing to it, whether it was money or another commitment. But anyway, last minute she decided she could do Divas Live. Maybe they got Aretha on board and maybe she found out it was a tribute to Aretha. Maybe that might have been the swinging decision for Mariah, because obviously that's her idol. Like, so there was something anyway that Mariah, I just know that Mariah was so last minute.
I love that tidbit. You are demonstrating why you have your place on this panel. We love an elder lamb to give us a little history lesson. So thank you, Taz, for that. Because I honestly forgot that or didn't know that. So I love that story.
A veteran.
I remember watching that on my black and white TV.
Get up.
I'm not that old. Ish.
Right, back on track. I'm going to crack the whip.
Skipping ahead, Divas 2000 was in tribute to Diana Ross. And I love the little tidbits we get from Mariah about Diana, but the bit that I highlighted straight away is the backstage in London, backstage Top of the Pops.
And she says, "I've been reflecting on something Miss Ross said to me that time in London. I had sold tens of millions of records and I was rolling deep with a big team, makeup artist, hairstylist, wardrobe stylist, publicist, manager, and various assistants. As she was flawlessly putting on her own makeup, she said, 'Mariah, someday you're not going to want to have all these people around you.' I believe that someday is not far away."
It's a given thing that a big star like Mariah has people swirling around her, entourage, all of that. We've seen that, witnessed that. Some of us have witnessed that in person, meeting her and being at TV shows and things like that. It does seem to me that over the past few years, Mariah is really making more considered choices and whittling her team down. I love the fact that she seems to have a smaller team of people that have been with her for longer, know her history and her as a person. And I believe her when she says that she doesn't need all these people. And someone like Brian Tanaka is really good for her, because I feel like he's kind of helping her with the Zoom and the technology and the live streams and things during the pandemic. Yeah, it helps to ground her and helps her with like the social media aspect. I think if she's got the right team, it only needs to be a few key people. I think that comes with maturity and a certain point in your life. So I was almost like quite happy to hear her, say that, because I feel like she's in a better place. Taz, any thoughts?
Yeah, my first thought is, and I'm not saying this is why she's saying it, but like you have to go, you're going from a point where you're selling 20 and 30 million albums to maybe selling maybe 500,000 albums now. You can't afford that team anymore. You can't afford to sustain having 30 people trailing behind you, because just the way the music, like we all know she deserves 30 million sales, but that's just the music industry today. So that might be part and parcel of like just only like her finances are infinite as well. Do you know what I mean? Even though she's like, if you were to stay in 30 people following around and all these people getting paid for God knows what, you're going to run dry eventually. So she probably has to rethink. I mean, with social media now as well, like years ago, to get your song out, you'd have to go to all around the world, to all the radio stations. You'd have to hit like BBC One, then fly to France, NRJ. You'd have to go to America, hit Z100 or whatever, all these stations around the world to get your single. No, now you can put out a tweet and go, here's my new single, guys, download, boom. You can do that from the luxury of your couch, you know. So
I hate how it is today.
It's good and bad. It's a lot more accessible. Like there's a lot more choice. There's a lot more freedom for artists as well. There's a lot more independent opportunities. It's just a different game. And Mariah has proven herself adaptable. And part of that is having people around you, because other people would be stuck in the 90s and get lost in this new game. But look what she did with Caution. People were like, it's still Mariah, but she's with these people and she's playing with these sounds. And she's always not like overtly reinventing herself. You know, like other people just change their image, but not like in a superficial way. Like she's engaging and like she's interested in what the kids or what the contemporaries are doing. She'll go and look at it. You know, she doesn't want to engage or play, she won't, but she'll at least pay attention. She understands what music is doing. Other people just change their image and they just want to be superficially on board. I'm trying not to name names. If you want to go ahead and name a name, that's fine. But she's adaptable, but it is a different game, and I think there's good and bad things. I mean, look at like how many Hot 100 debuts there've been, you know, over in America on Billboard. It's, you know, it's you debuting at number one doesn't mean as much as it did. Being number one doesn't mean a quarter of what it did. It is a different game now, and it comes with different figures, different sums of money, as Taz is saying. It is a different game, and she is playing a different game now. I'm just happy she's still playing. She doesn't owe us anything at this point in terms of the book, the music, like nothing. She can just sit down and enjoy herself. She's more than entitled to do that. But she is playing a different game, and maybe the game this day is to have a smaller team of people around you and be making different choices, boiling things down to the bare necessities. You need a good makeup person, a good hair person, a good social media technology, you know, just really, you know, I think she said in some recent interviews, does that person really need to be in the room? Do they really need to be here? What are they contributing? If they're not contributing, they don't need to be in the room. And I get very excited hearing her speak along those lines in recent interviews. And I think that's the little section I highlighted with Diana Ross kind of lent itself to that. And I'm like, yes, Mariah, that is what I want from you moving forward, because I think it puts herself in a stronger position to be best supported with her career as she moves forwards. I don't want to monologue on this. Michael, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, what I took from it was, I mean, we kind of look at an era like the Mariah's World era, and the team around her was not Team Mariah. They were team themselves, all these people. And it's kind of like Diana saying that, like, there's all these people here, you don't know if they're actually there for you. And I think Mariah finally is getting those core people to have a smaller team. And she says, like, Diana doing her own makeup, doing her own hair. I don't think Mariah is saying, like, I'm going to get rid of Christopher Buckle. I think just kind of, I mean, in her music, Mariah is hands-on. And I think maybe she's saying, like, if you're do it yourself, you know you best. You know, you're going to know the right things. So trust yourself. Keep those core people that are loyal to you in Team MC, and that's the way you're going to want it, you know? It's not the big hullabaloo. Everyone's like, you know, because people always say, oh, Mariah's entourage. It's kind of like, get those core people and that really love you and are doing the best for you, and do the best for yourself, you know?
Does she need everybody and their brother and nephew to be around? Like, no. You know, she's 30 years into her career now. And I think she's been at legendary status for years now. But I think she doesn't need the people and the gimmick.
Mariah doesn't go into loads and loads of detail about Nick, because I think it's a respectful choice, because that is the father of her children. We don't get a big, here's what happened with the divorce. She says egos got in the way and it was too drawn out. But one thing I found interesting was I kind of forgot or didn't know that Debrat was responsible for kind of like, you know, matchmaking a little bit. She says, Brat wouldn't let up, insistent that Nick and I really connect. We began talking on the phone almost daily. Then finally we did get together and it was irresistibly fun. And at that time, I was all about having fun. I wasn't ready to be grown up again. I had to be so grown up so fast professionally, and especially in my first marriage. I missed out on so much as a teen, and Nick, who had a perpetual teen spirit, was charmingly refreshing. He also felt safe to me. We said in a previous video, I think I said that Mariah she kind of missed her 20s, you know, so going into her 30s with the whole glitter era, it was like a harsh entry into her 30s. She never really got to be young and carefree and in her 20s and date around. I think Nick represented that kind of energy. And when I look at their relationship, I feel happy that she had that moment, because I think he did bring that youthful fun energy, and if she felt safe with him, as she says, just to kind of be and let go. And yeah, they were goofy, he's really goofy, they were goofy and kooky as a couple and stuff, but it was cute to watch. And I think good for her that she had someone that she could have that relationship with, because she probably needed that relationship in her 20s and never got it. So I love the love they had for each other. I'm not heartbroken that they're not together. I think it served its purpose, and they've got 2 beautiful children out of that marriage. But I think he did a lot of good in her life at the right time.
I think that some of the things he did were questionable, like going on air speaking about Kim Kardashian or Kardashian. I don't know if it was Kim or not. He did, you know, he did some questionable things, haven't we all? Like if you look at photos of Mariah and Nick, she's genuinely happy. And, you know, even when she's at this event, I can't remember what event it is, but she's with Nick, and you can just see how happy, and like, not just like showbiz happy, but genuinely happy.
There was no kind of drama with them. It was, we met, we like each other, it's smooth, it's easy. You want kids, I want kids. It just kind of like all came together where Mariah was in her life. And I think, like you said, it was they needed each other in that moment, and they got 2 beautiful blessings out of it. And I think it's great that she is respectful to Nick in the book and doesn't really go into the details, you know, out of respect for the kids and everything. So yeah, it was a moment, and a moment Mariah needed.
Herself and Nick were a good thing. I was surprised at the start. I thought it was a joke at the start, but then I was kind of sad that it didn't, you know, for Mariah, because I think Mariah does believe in love and really wouldn't have married him if she didn't think it was going to go the whole hog. So I just think from Tommy, she never believed in marriage. She kind of accepted with Nick that she allowed herself to believe in love and believe in marriage, and thought this was the real deal again, and then has set herself up for the next, well, not set up, like, I mean, it takes 2 to tango, and I don't know the ins and outs of that relationship, but where the downfall is, but obviously it's another failed marriage.
Her hopes for the children, and pretty much that, you know, they are never left alone. They don't wonder if someone's coming back. They feel love every day. You know, she really is working hard to give them the childhood that she never has, and that's really, really beautiful and sweet. And I'm like, yeah, if nothing else that you have worked so hard for is to be able to provide that situation.
I think she's just keeping the doors open for them. I think she is that support. I think everything she's doing with them is fantastic. You know, they seem like great personalities, smart, funny. We know they're doing their schoolwork, they're traveling the world. And I think she's kind of instilling, like, you're lucky to do all this, but I want you to have these, you know, these opportunities, and with me, spend the time with me. I'm here, you know, supporting you, and always will. And I think she's vocal about that, you know, they'll be taken care of forever.
So Emancipation jumps around. I love the fact it's like a bit of a mixed bag and gives us many, many different smatterings and splatterings of different people. And then she brings it to a finish with the epilogue. And the one bit that I highlighted was The toughest truth was that the people I loved the most hurt me the worst. The ones closest to me were the ones who came closest to stripping me of my dreams. If I have learned anything in this life worth sharing, it is protect your dreams. Even in the face of disadvantages, and dysfunction, you can't let anybody define, control, or take away your vision of your life.
I think
Amen.
Mariah's given that message a lot throughout her music and in many different songs. So many different songs come to mind, but even though that's a message she's delivered many times before, at the end of the book, after reading everything that she has gone through and fought against and survived and people that she's had to cut out of her life and things like that, those words really, really resonated. And in interviews and speaking about the book, people have said to her, it really is a story of survival. She has survived a lot and she's come out triumphant. And I think a lot of people within the industry sound like they have respect for her, a new level of respect, because they never really understood everything that she had endured and survived. And I think it is a bit of a survivor's story.
Even before the book, I thought I knew I was a Mariah historian. And then we get this book with so much that I had no idea. You know, I didn't know a lot of these stories, but I already related to Mariah in that keep on fighting, keep on going, keep on pushing, because you will, you know, come out on the other side. And like my favorite quote from an interview is, what about all the people that counted you out? And she said, well, I guess they're just gonna have to count me back in. So like we always knew that's one of Mariah's main themes: keep going, stand up, do what's right. So I think kind of now having all this extra stuff we know that she went through, it's surprising, but at the same time, it's not surprising because we've always related to her in that way, I think. I think the true lambs always felt connected to her and know that she went through a lot and what she means to all of us to keep, you know, fighting on and keep being authentic. And, you know, she singer, songwriter, producer, like, she is Mariah, she is herself. And I think, you know, we've always gotten that, but just to hear these stories, it just puts it more into concrete.
This book has made me love her and appreciate her and revere her even more. You know, the amount of vulnerability in the book is tremendous. I think the thing that I love about her the most is that when she falls, she always comes back 10 times stronger. And that's what I love about her.
She's incredible. I'm getting emotional.
I just feel like it's a story of resilience. I think on paper, she was written down, her story should never have taken off. She faced so much adversity from her birth onwards. And I think it's just overcoming all these things in her life, even a stifling marriage, glitter, you know, just loads of things that should have went against her. She, as you guys have said, you can't count talent out. So she persevered. And it's just literally a story of resilience. And Mariah Carey will always go out on top. Nobody can take away that she's one of the greatest singers of all time. You may not like her, but facts are facts. You know, she's proven all the records. She's nothing to prove to anybody. As we all know, she could retire tomorrow if she wants, live the rest of her days out. She does it for the music. She's a passion for music. She's a genius ear for music. She has the vocal ability to back it up. She has nothing to prove to anyone. And I think the story is about not having family behind her or all these forces in her life that should have made her do other things. She persevered and stayed focused always on her goal and her dream. And I suppose that's the message for anyone reading this book.
Guys, that is it. We have covered pretty much cover to cover across 4 videos, the meaning of Mariah Carey.
Thank you so much for being part of my book club. Nayth and Taz, thank you for being here, parts 1 through 4. Michael, thank you so much. A pleasure to have you join us here. And obviously Dimitri was with us as well, parts 1 through 3. I've really enjoyed discussing this with many different people in my life, people that are fans, people that are lambs, people that are friends. I've had several friends work their way through, some are still going. I think this is really quite accessible to a lot of people. So it's a gift for us, and I think it's a wonderful vessel for a lot of people to discover who Mariah really, really is. So
thank you so much. I've really enjoyed geeking out with you all. So thank you once again.
And I'm sure I will talk to you very, very soon. Thanks, guys.